100 miles off the north coast of Australia is the territory of Papua New Guinea. In the western highlands of Papua New Guinea there are many tribes. One of them is the Kawelka. The most prominent leader, or big man, of the Kawelka tribe is Ongka. For 5 years, the Kawelka tribe, driven on by Ongka, have been struggling to assemble a huge gift, mainly of pigs, to present to a neighbouring tribe. For Ongka, assembling and giving this gift is more important than anything in his life. This film is about why Ongka so wanted to do it, and about his efforts to bring it off. The big man of the tribe who are going to receive the gift is Perewa, who is also the local member of the National Assembly. One day, this July, Perewa set off on his way back home to the highlands. Perewa knew pretty well what the Kawelka were trying to prepare. 500 or 600 pigs, rare birds, money, tubes of decorating oil, a truck, and maybe a motorbike. All his life, Perewa, like all highland men, has been involved in the system of receiving gifts and later repaying them. These gifts are called Moka, and Moka is the most important thing in the lives of the highland people. When he got home this summer, Perewa thought that Ongka's Moka was going to be very soon, but that's not how it turned out, and Perewa just had to wait till Ongka was ready. Early this summer, after years of scheming and manipulating, planning and persuading, Ongka began to feel that he might finally be able to bring off his big Moka, and that it could be the biggest Moka ever given. The reason why Ongka so wanted to give his big Moka is that only by giving can he earn fame and status for his tribe and for himself. In the West, you can get status lots of ways, from money, from success, from your job, your possessions. The only way Ongka can get status is to outdo his fellow men in Moka, to overwhelm them publicly by the sheer size of the gift that he gives. It's an awful lot of work to organize a big gift, and Ongka needed the cooperation of a lot of people. Big men have no authority over their tribesmen. Ongka cannot order people around. He can only persuade. Ongka gave them a favourite speech in which he told them to stop fiddling about in their gardens, to stop drinking beer and wasting time with women, and to get on with it. What you are supposed to be doing, he said, is getting pigs ready for the Moka, not sitting around eating them. The Kawelka are a small tribe, about 1,000 people. All around are other tribes, some allies, some enemies. There are no villages, just scattered settlements, around which Ongka plodded, bringing news, checking on progress, and trying to set a date for the big Moka. The date is always a problem. Big men compete for the status of fixing the date, and a lot of conspiring goes on. Ongka lives in his men's house, 5 minutes away from the house of his favourite wife, Rumbakul. Ongka has 4 wives and 9 children, but he talks rather wearily about trying to manage more than one wife, and only Rumbakul now looks after pigs for him. Ongka talked endlessly about pigs. He said that pigs are the only worthwhile thing, that if money looks after white people, pigs look after them. You have to have pigs for whatever you want to do. Pigs can be used in lots of ways, but there's a rare bird captured in the forest that is used only as a Moka gift, much as the Chinese are apt to give pandas to visiting dignitaries. It's called a cassowary, and Ongka hoped to give 5. Rumbakul lives with her daughters in her women's house. The pigs live there too, separated off by a fence. The basic food of both pigs and people is sweet potatoes. Pigs are a lot of work. Hard at it, Rumbuckle can look after 8 full-grown pigs, maybe 10 for a while. Sometimes Ongka went back to his men's house. Sometimes he ate with Rumbuckle and the children. You can survive all right without pigs. Your food, the materials for your house, the traditional clothes, all come from the gardens and forest, and you only eat pig on special occasions. But if you want to get on in life or even marry, then you've got to have pigs. Because it's not possible to look after more than a few pigs, you cannot accumulate, you can't hoard them. What you can do is to assemble a lot of pigs and give them away in a big public show. And it's by giving that you impress other people. In his big Moka, Ongka himself wanted to give about 100 pigs. To have that many on the day, there is a system of investment. Over the last 4 years, Ongka had invested pigs with other people, mostly with Rumbuckle's father. The next day, Rumbuckle's father was going to show them the pigs he owed, and Ongka sorted through his feathers and skins to see what he was going to wear for the occasion. The next day, Ongka's father-in-law and Damba had some pigs staked out for him to see, returns on the investment Ongka had made with him. If Ongka was satisfied, these pigs would be given to him later at a small Moka which would feed into Ongka's big one. It was not as many as Ongka had hoped, but it was a start. Pigs have always been important. Ongka's father-in-law told us about the olden days. Although Ongka had now been promised pigs by his father-in-law and by other men that he'd invested with, the small Moka ceremonies at which he would actually receive the pigs still had to happen, and Ongka started to dress up for the first of these. Before the Australians pacified the area in the 1940s, Ongka too fought against his enemy tribes and sometimes against his allies. Big men planned the fighting and the peace and the pig givings that followed. Big men have always been especially vulnerable. Ongka has many stories about attacks upon himself, including one about how one night he was about to visit his lavatory hut. As he walked towards it, he sensed his enemies lying in wait. Ongka hid in a nearby bush and watched while his enemies crept up and drove their spears through the walls, thinking they'd got him inside. Ongka, dressed in his feathers, set off for the first small Moka that would feed pigs into the system. While the pigs are tied up in the shade, the donors put on their bird of paradise feathers and dance to celebrate their achievement. Who gets what is all worked out beforehand, but the pigs are inspected and counted again, usually by Ongka. The donors walk down the line of stakes, shouting out the name of the man who will receive the pig that will be tied to it. The correct pig is then brought on and tied to its allotted stake. Disputes about who gets what should, at least in theory, have been worked out before. Before the pigs are taken away, men make speeches of a special kind, full of allusions and complex metaphors, a whole language of their own. Speech-making is Ongka's great skill. At one stage in his speech, Ongka said, "The men's house had fallen down, the young girl's breasts had fallen, the young man's beard grew long. But now that you've given these pigs, I shall marry the young girl, find a wife for the young man, and I shall build the men's house again." Ongka got one pig and his fellow tribesmen got the rest, all to be fed into the big Moka. Ongka has a surprising quantity of money, 1,800 Australian dollars, sitting in the Mount Hagen Savings Bank at 3.75% interest. But, highly conscious of the value of money, he refused to pay to put his pig on a truck and walked it the 12 miles home. It wasn't only that Ongka wanted to give his big Moka, he had to. Moka gifts are given and, some years later, they should be repaid with interest. Technically, Moka is the interest, the extra, that you managed to give back over and above the gift you received. 10 years ago, Ongka's tribe were given 400 pigs by their neighbours, and to answer that, Ongka wanted to give at least 600.
I'm making for work again. I'm out. Don't put it. I'm payment the pan. Pay on put up Maltinum go. When the morning cap Mintilanum go. King back I patch by the what a queen will talk like. Hobbit of Moracum for Urmul paper. No man to put up Kaya, Queen I bet for an Padam and Intiki were match with an Abdominica. Now my band of Minty Mam over pay on Pulnap and over Maltiv.
To organise 600 pigs, Ongka had to do two things. He had to gather in his own investments and push his tribesmen into gathering in theirs. With no authority over them, he can only push, and if he pushes too hard, they won't cooperate anymore. There was one place where he had constant problems. He told them to stop looking for lice in their wives' aprons and get a move on. Later, another of the small Mokas took place and fed in 55 more pigs for the big Moka. Ongka supervised the dancers to make sure they would perform well when the big Moka came. the small Moka, there was money as well as pigs. Money, Australian dollars, comes almost entirely from coffee, which they grow and sell to the coffee companies in Mount Hagen. Until 10 years ago, pearl shells were used in Moka, but now shells have been replaced by paper dollars, and a big pig is now worth about $250, but £140. This time, there was a ritual war charge in which extra pigs were brought on as a surprise to get extra prestige. Within every tribe, big men compete with each other. Ongka has one particular rival trying to oust him, Reimer. Reimer has few of Onka's abilities, but he always told us that he, not Ongka, would be the one to fix the date of the big Moka. In his speech, Ongka said that they all knew the story of the lady who made a lot of noise in her sweet potato garden until a man came along and gave her what she wanted, and then she was happy and quiet. And now that I've got what I want, he said, I too am very happy, and like that lady, I will sit in my corner and not say any more. Thank you very much. I'm very happy.
Yeah, kono pele na du ma di jimpet na ba du kun pele e jimpet ni di ku ku de pele ku ma ga ne mo ta ga te o ku le mel ti ku de na ne che na ti me ga na ba de pa ni di mo ta kono na ma ga chi chi mo na ku da ga chi ru mo na o ku na ba ma ma te ga le ki mo ga ya wei kol ro pa mo ka jimpet ne ba che na te pa mel ba jimpet ne pa mo ga jimpet ku na ba ga jimpet pa dai kol ro pa jam kan ro bon chi en chi ma no no ga ni ti na mu du pele Kaya pipi ko pini na di ko te pong betum buru rongo mo man bu ma kan mu ro gal bal mo ko a mai ko ro in mana ka we je na di man je onom ka te ki ni bet bon me na pa nga bon ra ngi na ki pipi li pen pipi la ni pipi ko pini mo ni ba ba wo yo ko ni kan ra ni che na di nga je ham je ko ba da un de ji bi ne tem da ni ba min di ma mo ka ka ga
As the pigs began to appear, Ongka said that they were like a snake half hidden in the grass. He could see its head, but he couldn't tell how long its body was. Ongka went off to the Jimmy Valley 2 days' walk away to get new feathers for his headdress and to chase up a 40-pig investment. While he was away, something happened to jeopardize all he had been working for. In Ongka's enemy tribe, a big man died suddenly. If a man, especially a big man, dies suddenly, it's always thought he was killed by sorcery, and the men charge in anger against the enemy who must have performed the sorcery. In their song, the women sang, "O my father, whom shall I turn to now?" In their song, the men sang, O my brother, whom shall I live with now?" As the day wore on, visitors brought news of Kawelka men of Ongka's group who had been heard singing, drunk, in a truck. People said it must be our Kawelka enemies who killed our big man by sorcery, that they were singing because they were pleased, and there began to be talk of going down to burn Kawelka houses. When Ongka got home with his feathers, he heard that his group were being accused of the sorcery. At once, he sent a pig down to the funeral with a message to say it wasn't true, and a special branch used in oath-taking to emphasize the truth of what he was saying. He wanted to go down to the funeral himself to tell them that it wasn't true, but he didn't dare go. Some of his relatives, married into the dead man's tribe, came and took his branch and his pig down, along with a pig of their own. Ongka's pig was accepted and cooked, along with others, at a distribution of pork to mark the end of the first period of mourning. but it only smoothed over the accusation. It didn't get rid of the suspicion. This sort of payment can become the basis of a Moka, and the Moka sequence in which Ongka is involved began in this sort of way, as a payment of pigs for deaths in tribal fighting. Later, more pigs were returned, and the to and fro exchanges of a Moka began. The funeral held everything up. For 3 weeks, until the mourning was over, the Kawelka were uneasy. There were no Mokas in case they antagonized the dead man's tribe. Eventually, the next small Moka did happen, and Ongka was given the pigs promised by his father-in-law. But they didn't decorate or dance out of respect for the dead man. Ongka did rather better than he expected. 80 pigs were given, and Ongka got half of them. Ongka was very happy, but more pigs meant more work, and the pressure was really on him, and even more on Rumbakul, to hand the pigs on. Rumbakul had no sweet potatoes left. They had to find them wherever they could. At night, with no more room for pigs inside, someone had to sleep out with them. Ongka even found an extra wife, a widow whose greatest attraction was her capacity for work. Before the big Moka could happen, there were still 3 small Mokas to go. Each one meant more pigs and mounting pressure to pass them on. As the big Moka got closer, the pressure on Rumbakul got worse.
Mundu bajraro wan bundu pumbanji. Ongka andat ngaji bakanga mat ngurumeni ko. Mba kerema mat ngurumeni ko. Yeling ni kini bote mebe yando mbaka na ngurumeni. Moka bajrop magu kini bote buruambe ongdam nambe jimpi mbaka ni kungundu bajrop. Kerema undu bajrop aje. Bajrop mulu namun dam wan buruambe bonjongan na ro kik ngu. Ni mam korba chekanje wana mebe oram mebe mebe omba namuru.
The last few pigs were coming in. Ongka began to talk about going down to buy cows as an extra surprise. The big Moka was very close. Moka isn't just about pigs, it's about all kinds of things. The Kawelka say that it keeps the peace. It's a way of making a name for yourself. It holds the tribe together. It's the big social event. On a more general level, Moka is a system, a framework. All over the world, people operate within some kind of framework, and Moka is one of them. There was one more thing to do before the big Moka could happen the next day. The money they had collected to give to Peroa and his tribe had to be spread out and counted. They got 10,000 Australian dollars, about £5,500. Each bundle is $200 and is destined for a particular group.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 2000. 1, 2, 3.
Peroa, the member of the assembly, often says it's time they gave up Moka, but he sat watching the piles of money mounting up. When we asked Ongka what he'd do if Peroa didn't one day return the Moka, Ongka said he'd take him behind a bush and slit his throat. But even if he did lose his investment, he could never lose the glory of having given it. Then it happened. Suddenly, Ongka's rival, Reimer, did what he always said he'd do and upset the timing of the Moka. Reimer put a whisper through the crowd that it was his group who had killed the big man by sorcery. It's not the kind of thing you admit to in public, but it had the effect he wanted. It broke up in confusion, with people angry at Reimer for stirring up old troubles. That night, Ongka was still saying the big Moka would happen the next day. In fact, things turned out much worse than Ongka had expected. Early next morning, the group of Kawelka married into the dead man's tribe came down in a war charge to get Reimer. On their way, they came past Ongka's. To try and stop them, Ongka sat down in the road.
다간 보는 많은 별 모래 가니. 우리 국가등에 가면 나 매주 우리 대지면 나 진지 가니. 매주 모비행에 가면 나 매주 대지면 나 진지 가니. 보고는 만능행에 가면 나 매주 우리 대지면 나 진지 가니. 엄빠 마가 우리 니고 문도는 거 문도를 보다 그럼 나면 되게 마가 문도를 가니. 근데 그거 나나 배 대지면 뭐 되게 진지 가니. 나는 매주 매번 보고 있는 데 보이면 너희는 그러면 가서 보고 봐.
Ongka told them that they must stop this talk of fighting. That when the Europeans first came, they had put ideas of fighting down the lavatory hole, and that's where they should stay. He told them it was just a hitch, that they would finish the big Moka together. Ongka, with no power to stop them, did his best to persuade them. Some listened, some set off for Reimers. The next day, there was no big Moka. Reimer went into hiding. A few nights later, they killed 4 of his pigs. Perewa had been waiting 3 months, but now he had to go back to the assembly to discuss the new constitution for the independence of Papua New Guinea. Perewa was getting used to delays. The big Moka had originally been planned for a year ago, and Ongka and his group had got as far as buying a truck as part of their gift. Perewa said there was no point in the truck rotting away until the big Moka did happen, and that he might as well use it in the meantime. Sometime after we too had left, Ongka's big Moka finally did happen. There were 600 pigs, $10,000, 8 cows, and 12 cassories. They washed the truck and decorated it with flowers, and there was a motorbike. At the end of his Moka speech, Ongka said, "Now that I have given you all these things, I have won. I have knocked you down by giving so much."
Mana kurang kungku tangga balik ngomong ngomong dulu bro ni pentingnya mana. Ada kau nak ada mungkin. Wajib dengan dia ngomong mungkin.